religion inherently comes with community built into it. And so for those of us who are part of this very quickly growing majority of people for whom religion is not a thing here in America, we have to figure out a way to stay in community. We have to keep that component of it, right? It's a basic human thing. Like we have to have human connection.
Perhaps I could use this as an excuse to go to those far-off planets with little polka-dotted people if necessary, and be able to talk about love, war, nature, God, sex, all those things that go to make up the excitement of the human condition.
I'm Captain James Kirk. Mr. Spock.
Your move, Captain. Jim Kirk of the Enterprise.
What's going on? I'm James Kirk. These people are my friends and my shipmates. Leave my crew alone.
Out of the question.
How about that? James Kirk.
It fits like a glove, Captain.
All the bonehead ideas. Gentlemen, I'm Captain James Kirk. Get out of my chair. Get out of it now.
My greetings and felicitations, Captain. So good of you and your officers to, drop in. Absolutely smashing.
We are Borg. You will be assimilated. Resistance is futile.
And welcome to Humanist Trek. It's a Star Trek comedy podcast about the humanism in Star Trek. I'm Sarah Ray.
And I'm Allie Ashmead.
And I'm Becca Ray.
Hey, y'all. We just got done with Galacticon 2023 in Denver. It was a great time.
So much fun.
We had a community table, which in hindsight, I rather liked. I still would have liked to have been able to sell our shit. That was kind of frustrating, but
we were in a good spot to where people were walking by, and we had our backdrop, which was a great backdrop for people to take photos. So I mean, it was really nice. Really good.
We made new friends.
Lots of new friends.
One in particular, ex Ho Yen, who was involved with Lockheed Martin in like the Mars missions and shit, which is really fucking cool. Like he was there as an author and talking about that sort of thing, but he did a panel on Sunday that was just fucking fantastic.
Yeah. So now that we've discovered that he's got a science background, we need him. We have questions.
Yeah, many questions. Yeah.
Listen, guys, I'm the third wheel.
Okay, fine. Very, very sorry.
And your job, you are the best at your job, and that is
everybody who knows me knows I'm an overachiever.
She was stumping people. She was stumping people all weekend.
So nice.
And everyone was a good sport to just come by and do some trivia.
Yeah.
Whether they knew it or not.
We should talk about our live show, our first ever live Humanist Trek live show.
That was fun.
It was fun. It went really well, despite being time changed in the 11th hour and not notified about it. That was kind of frustrating.
A little bit.
Very. And granted, we kind of knew what we were going to say, but I think it still went really well.
Yeah.
Because we kind of practiced, because we thought we had a set amount of time and we had to chop it down to 50 minutes.
Yeah. It turned out the guys running the podcast room, they are the Dice Tower Theater guys. It's another podcast you should go check out. They were running the podcast room. So they were running tech for everybody. And they were just super cool. Chill, didn't care that we ran over time. And I think they're listening now too. So welcome to everyone who we met at Galacticon. Thanks for checking us out. And you'll get to hear what a show's really like. So then on Sunday morning, we had church. We did a panel.
And nobody comes to the early service at church.
On a Sunday morning after a Saturday night party night.
Yeah.
But no, I was very pleased with that too. We had, a few people stop in and check it out. Notably, probably my favorite guest that we met all weekend, the real life, honest to goodness Kira. This little girl was the coolest freaking kid ever.
She sure was. Was she like 8?
Something. 7 or 8,
somewhere
maybe 9
in there. Yeah. I was disappointed because our daughter was there on Saturday, and then they were gonna come up on Saturday, but they were coming up from Pueblo, I think, and
The
so
weather
the
was
weather
bad.
was really bad.
Yeah.
It was snowy and shit, so they didn't make it until Sunday. So our kids didn't get to meet, but I don't know. My kid's not like into Trek. She's into wearing the costume and taking pictures with us, but she's not really a Trek fan.
It was really funny because when I was walking around with her on Saturday, she had her little, red engineer dress on, and like people kept saying things to her,
and she didn't get it.
Like
She's
somebody
like, what?
said,
"Beam me up."
There's no moping in Starfleet, and it just like went right over her head, and I'm just like, oh, baby girl, maybe we need to put you in a different costume.
Oh, well, maybe in
20
years, she'd be like, "Oh, I love Star Trek, and I wish I'd known about it I wish I'd understood when I was 10."
Yeah.
So.
It was neat for me though, because and I think I said this to her, enjoy this time, because when I got into Star Trek, it was Next Gen, and then kicked off Deep Space Nine, and then Voyager, and then all of that crossover. It was all happening at the same time.
Yep.
And it was like the golden age of Star Trek, and now that's happening again. And I'm like, you just don't know what we went through these past 30 years, or however many years it was.
I think you need
years.
to maybe back up though and explain who Kira is.
Oh, Kira is the sweetest little girl, and
Kira Nerys
was named for Kira Nerys. Yeah,
and so she was cosplaying as
Kira. Yeah,
but this is an audio show.
Hey, go to our social media and you can see pictures of all the people that we meted and greeted and took pictures with.
Really cool people.
The dude that was a Klingon one day, and then a Ferengi the next day. He was really cool.
The Grinch / Stormtrooper.
Yes, the Grinch
really
Trooper.
Great.
That was a mashup if I've ever seen one.
I love it. Love it. Love it.
So good.
The guy that was walking around as Batman. He's called That Man, and he started following, liked some of our posts and stuff. So I started following him.
Nice.
I don't know what he looks like.
Right. No idea.
No idea.
That's the whole idea.
Yeah, but his social media is just nothing but That Man. He's called That
right.
Man.
That's his thing.
Our friend Seventh Sparrow Cosplay was there.
Yeah.
He does an insane data, or a fistful of data,
Laura. Not Laura.
Laura.
Who's Laura? Whoa.
That is a gender smash
gender bender, or what was
character.
That?
Yeah.
Laura. He does a great lore. He does a great data. I mean, he's got the face for it. He's got the hair, the hairline, everything. And he's already got the mannerisms down. So he's such a great cosplayer.
Yeah. Always in character the whole weekend. Yeah. Lots of fun. So again, thanks to everybody who came out and caught the live show, or the panel, or both, or stopped by and talked to us. That was really great meeting everybody and just chatting with people, spreading the good news of humanism. The video from the live show and the audio from our panel are both available on Patreon to our patrons right now. You can go to patreon.com/humanisttrek and get access to that, plus a whole bunch of other bonus content. So if you go on our Patreon, if you become a patron, we'll love you forever, of course, but you'll get access to the live show video for the episode that we're doing the studio version of today. Speaking of Star Trek convention, this is not a Star Trek convention. It was a nerd con, right? So there were a lot of fandoms represented. And, we in the fandom community, we get a bad rap. A bunch of nerdy people,
Do we?
Maybe not the prettiest people when you think of who the nerdy people are, There's a stereotype about the type of person that comes to the convention.
Yeah.
It's the people that Shatner made fun of in that skit where he sells them all to
Get a life.
We're nerds, and we want to know all these details about the production of the show and what did you have for lunch on Tuesday and that kind of stuff, right?
We do love that. We want to know those things.
Yeah. But are we beautiful? I say we are. And
I say we are. The world says we're not, because neither of us fit into any of
the
your
beauty
standards.
stereotype.
Yeah. But I say we are.
Yeah. So we'll just explore more about what really is beautiful as we get into Star Trek, the original series, season 3, episode 5, Is there in truth no beauty?
Sir, contact with an object. It's moving toward us. No visual contact yet.
Deflectors, full intensity.
Mr. Sulu, yes, Captain. Anything on your scanners?
It's coming at light speed.
Collision course. Visual contact.
Anything, over?
All wavelengths dominated by ionization effects, sir.
All engines full stop.
Simple mission ahead of us this episode. Transport a Medusan ambassador to the Federation back to their home planet. What could possibly go wrong?
How did he get there?
Great question.
How did he get there in the first place? And then what did they... So they have a Marvick who is there to interface with the ship. What do they need him for on the way back?
It wasn't clear what Marvick is here for at all.
Yeah.
We find out shortly that he was like one of the guys that designed the Enterprise or something. What does he have to do with the Medusan? Why is he here? The captain's log describes the Medusans as having the most sublime thoughts in the galaxy, but their physical appearance is quite the opposite. Their race is formless, so another energy being, I guess.
But apparently you can still see them.
Yeah.
But because they're so hideous, apparently, that the sight of them brings total madness to any human who sees one. So they must look like something.
Right.
I guess.
Right. So Marvick beams in and sets off henpecking at everyone, like for being in the transporter room. Like, you need to get out of here because we're going to beam the Medusan ambassador up, and you'll go mad if you see it. And he also double checks that Spock has this special visor that will allow him to look at the Medusan before he and Scotty go skipping off to feel up the warp engines or something.
Yeah, Scotty's got a boner. Because he's like so privileged to meet one of the designers of the Enterprise.
Do you remember the episode where Geordi recreates Leah Brahms in the holodeck?
Holodeck? No.
And has like a creepy relationship with her holo program? You don't remember that? Oh, man.
I probably remember when I see it. I'll remember when I see it.
It is a cringe episode.
Okay.
Anyway, let's talk about this visor. This thing looked like if you took just the red part of the 3D glasses out, and it's like
red plastic,
like lighting gel film or something, right?
Yeah. So
it's like this red thing from the 3D glasses, and they just glued it into some little face shield looking thing.
Plastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was great. High tech.
Yeah. So Spock puts on this ridiculous visor and beams in a box and Dr. Catherine Pulaski.
Hey, it's her. So she's got black hair this time, so she's a different person.
Yeah, right. We last saw Dr. Pulaski in Star Trek: The Original Series, Season 2, Episode 22, Return to Tomorrow, who she was taken over by Thalassa, one of the orb beings with Sargon. Question. Why did Spock put on that visor? Because as they beam in, Pulaski takes her visor off, and then Spock does as well. And so they both have these visors on, but the Medusan ambassador is in a box.
The box
and you
is
can't
closed.
see him.
Yeah.
Right.
Good point. I didn't think about that. I think they just wanted to emphasize the precaution that you have to take, because if the box isn't open, they really don't need it. Maybe they just, in case the box flies open, I don't know.
So this Medusan ambassador is called Kolos, and it's inside this box. And Spock's like, "Welcome back, Pulaski." And she's like, "Hen Spock, it's been a long time. How you been? Been a long time since they've seen each other." So yes, Diana Muldaur is playing Dr. Miranda Jones this time, who has been assigned to escort the ambassador. So this is the ambassador's escort. We still don't know what this guy's purpose is.
No.
Yeah.
I think it had something to do with adjusting the ship. I can't remember.
Oh, that's right. I also want to talk about this Medusan's box. This thing really reminded me of, I'm in next gen mode for some reason right now, but do you remember the episode of Next Generation where Troy was going to be like, had this arranged marriage? I think it was called Haven. They were going to this planet called Haven. And this, anyway, so she's arranged to get married to this man, and he sends over this box of like costume jewelry, and it had Armin Shimmerman's face was the the face in the box that was like,
Really?
a joyous occasion. And then it opened up and all the costume jewelers. You don't remember that either?
No. What the fuck? I know I'm going to, when I see it, I'll remember it, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
Anyway, that's what that box looked like.
To me, it looked like a freaking Craftsman toolbox that someone painted brown.
Spock hooks up an anti-grav unit to the Medusan's box, and Kirk makes an announcement from the bridge to clear the hallways because the ambassador has to be taken to his quarters. During this announcement, the camera cuts around to an insane number of people in the hallways.
Standing there.
Just standing around listening to the announcement in the hallway. So many extras.
Can they not just walk and listen?
And why were there so many of them?
Yeah.
All in the same hallway.
No idea. It was a choice.
Spock and Pulaski have the anti-grav ambassador box by the handles, and they're walking through the now empty hallways wearing still these ridiculous visors.
So the passageways had to be cleared.
Right. So I guess the ambassador can open its own box. Is that the deal?
But he wouldn't, I would imagine, because unless he wants to kill people and he's like not benevolent. If he's not benevolent, I don't know.
So they would be wearing these things like just in case the ambassador pops the box open, without warning, I guess. Anyway, Spock congratulates Pulaski on the new job, but she says that she'll be attempting a mind meld with the Medusan later, and that'll determine whether she gets permanently assigned to Ambassador Kolos. Speaking of being assigned to Ambassador Kolos, apparently Spock was up for the job before they offered it to Pulaski, but he turned it down because he just really loves being second in command of the Enterprise. A real Riker maneuver,
Yeah.
How many times did Riker turn down promotions?
Hey, Picard was his homie, and, Kirk is Spock's homie, so, Spock actually wants to have some type of exchange with the ambassador. And Miranda says that I think the ambassador would be charmed. So then the box opens a little bit and there's just a bright light, but then it shuts again and he's got his glasses on, so he's good. And Spock says that he does envy her assignment. And she feels like I guess she can read his mind. And she says, I sense in your mind that you were tempted to take my place. And I detected a little bit of, a little bit of jealousy there.
Mm-hmm. A lot of jealousy.
And Spock is like, I'm not tempted to take your place, although I am aware of you probing my mind. Bitch, get out of my head. But then he asked her if she was born a telepath. And apparently she was born a telepath, and she went to study on Vulcan to learn how to control it. And that was the best place to do that.
Spock offers to escort Pulaski to her quarters, but she declines. The ambassador finds the process of transport very unsettling. And Spock's like, yeah, our ship's surgeon often complains about that too. Transporter fear. Transporter phobia. That's it, yeah. Got to get a dig in on McCoy whenever you can. Spock leaves, and Pulaski takes off her visor, asking, what is it he sees when he looks at you? And visor off, the box opens up, and the green flashy lights overwhelm the room. This green flashy light sequence really made me think I was going mad. It did a good job with that effect.
Yeah. It didn't dawn on me what she meant by that. She's like, what is it he sees when he looks at you? I must know.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't even dawn on me. Nothing.
Nope.
And until later, and I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it. But I was like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah. And Pulaski, doesn't have goggles on.
The box is open.
The box is open, and she's not being driven mad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something interesting is going on here. Cut to the dining hall where the officers have donned their dress uniform. Is it me, or does Scotty just get more and more plaid each time they dress up for something?
I love his skirt. He's got the sash and his skirt. And we're gonna go off on a tangent on this whole scene. It's heavy with lots of stuff in it.
Yes, it is. Kirk's pouring out the drinks and hitting on Pulaski, and he's like, are you sure we haven't met before? You look so familiar. We haven't,
Have we?
We haven't done it, have we? And then I don't remember it because that would be super embarrassing.
But he's trying to pour on the charm.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a room full of nothing but men, and she's the only woman. I felt like they could have brought in Nurse Chapel or Uhura to kind of even it out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But so it was
a sausage fest.
Yeah, it was her against like 5 men, 5 or 6 men. And so Kirk is like, I can't understand why they let you go with Kolos.
Mm-hmm.
And Miranda's like, what do you mean they? This is I'm so angry. He says, the male population of the Federation. Didn't somebody try to talk you out of it? Wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
It's very diminishing to her. Why they let you?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, excuse me, she's a grown woman. Yeah.
Yep. Kirk asks the question on all of our minds. How is it that you, a human, aren't affected by the Medusans? And Pulaski's like, well, I spent 4 years on Vulcan studying their mental discipline. And McCoy, ever the racist, pipes in with, you poor girl.
Spock, of course, speaks up. He's like, on the contrary, Doctor, I would say she's fortunate. But McCoy, again, Vulcan's not my idea of fun.
And then she accuses Spock of wearing his idic to remind her that he could, as a Vulcan, mind link with the Medusan far better than she could.
She's already like a little bit butthurt. Like, why is she's jealous, I think, of Spock. And it's coming out a little bit.
Yeah. And Spock's like, no. Gene just wants to sell more merchandise. That's all this is about.
I totally buy that.
That's
pen.
literally what. Yeah, I used to have one. And it probably came from Intergalactic Trading Company.
Mm.
He's like, I wear this to honor you. That's quite the contrary. But we don't linger on this long because Kirk's got more questions.
He's like, Kirk is over off of the side, growing impatient. He's like, can we get back to flirting, please?
Right? They're all kind of taking a swipe at her.
Oh my
Kirk,
goodness.
McCoy. We don't hear much from Scotty, I guess, but
no, he's all about the machines and the engine.
Yeah.
He's just not. He's like decent, I think.
Kirk's interested in some ship navigation things himself. Apparently, there's some truth that Medusans have developed some really wicked, like, navigational skills or something. That's not really fleshed out a lot in this episode.
Yep. And then that's where Marvick comes in, is because Miranda is supposed to link minds with the ambassador and then learn the techniques, the navigation techniques. And then Larry's going to adopt it. Larry or Marvick is going to adapt the instruments to it. So that's what he's there for.
Then McCoy dives headfirst into the big theme of this week's episode. He's like, isn't it suicidal to deal with something so ugly it drives men mad? Damn, McCoy.
Spock gets a zinger in, though, and I'm like, okay, yeah. He's like, I see, Dr. McCoy, you still subscribe to the outmoded notion promulgated by your ancient Greeks that what is good must also be beautiful. And then Marvick pipes up and he says, and the reverse, of course, is that what is beautiful is automatically expected to be good.
Mm-hmm. Kirk suggests this may be one of the last prejudices as humans, that we are attracted by beauty and repelled by ugliness. And despite sounding prejudiced, he makes a toast saying, gentlemen, despite there being a woman in the room, gentlemen, a toast to beauty and to the great Dr. Catherine Pulaski, the loveliest human ever to grace a starship. And he leans toward her and he quietly says, you're absolutely sure we haven't been in bed together? I just have this really strange feeling in my pants. Speaking of feeling, something struck me odd here.
Mm-hmm.
KSM, Scotty, and Marvick all stand up and raise their glasses.
Mm-hmm.
But she stays seated.
Mm-hmm. He did say gentleman and not her, and they're toasting to her.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway, so McCoy's like, how can one so beautiful condemn herself to look upon ugliness for the rest of her life? And Pulaski's quick. She fires right back. How can one so full of joy and the love of life like you, Doctor, condemn yourself to look upon disease and suffering for the rest of your life?
How can someone with obviously a doctor degree be so terrible at doctoring? Is my question.
This might be a bit pedantic of me, but this doesn't strike me as an apples to apples kind of argument.
It totally wasn't, but they had to give her something to say back to him. but it wasn't.
Like
at all.
McCoy's in the business of doctoring, right? Which is to heal the disease and suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So then the direct equation would be that Pulaski would be in the business of fixing the ugly.
Right.
So that didn't work for me.
No. Like I said, I think the original writers left.
Still, it was nice to see McCoy get put in his place a little bit.
Yeah, but the harping on how she looks and what they feel like she should be doing. This whole scene was so important.
Mm-hmm. Kirk goes to pour another glass of Antarian brandy, and Pulaski gets this far-off look on her face and declares that someone nearby is thinking of murder.
Ooh. Kirk's like, here? In this room? Yeah, I'm about to murder that pussy. Anyway. She's like, it's gone now.
During this moment, there's a cross dissolve to the Medusan, and then back to her. Did you believe that
I thought it was a Medusan.
The Medusan was thinking of murder? Yeah, so did I.
But we were
Sent
wrong.
me down the wrong road.
Yeah.
Pulaski excuses herself and declines literally everyone's simultaneous offer to walk her home. No, let me walk you home. No, come with me. I'll walk you home.
Jesus Christ. They're treating her like a fucking piece of meat, like a really juicy steak or something.
Yep.
Like, it's ridiculous.
Kirk takes her by the hand and tells her to sleep well, and she walks to the door. Creepy McCoy follows her and asks one more time, "You're sure you're okay to find your own way home?" She said, "No, McCoy.
Oh,
no means no."
And he kisses her hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did feel some kind of way.
Yeah, and she walks out, and then he turns around and he's like, where I come from, that's what we call a lady.
They're talking about, oh, she's something special. And just because she's pretty.
Yeah.
And
that's it.
She's more than that. She's obviously intelligent. She's telepathic. She knows how to control it. She's got a strong mind. But all they're thinking about as far as what makes her special is how she looks.
Yeah. Anyway, Marvick makes a comment here that led me to think maybe he knows Pulaski a bit more than he's let on so far. They're all drooling over her, and he's like, "She's very special. I suggest you treat her accordingly. I've known Dr. Pulaski long enough to be aware of her remarkable gifts." Oh my.
And then he tries to excuse himself, and but Scotty has a boner for him because he wants him to come by engineering with him, and because he's got a few things to check on, and he's got a bottle of scotch that says you can't handle the controls you designed. So he's offering him a bottle of scotch and a challenge, but Marvick says no some other time, and then they both leave.
So Marvick's on my radar now as possible murder, thought, crime suspect.
Murder, death, kill.
Everybody's leaving the party now, and finally Kirk and McCoy are alone, and McCoy lets on that he thinks there's something very disturbing about Dr. Pulaski. Remember 3 minutes ago when we were suspicious of Marvick? Turns out he's the guy who doesn't know when to quit. He's an incel. He shows up at Pulaski's quarters, and she tries to shoo him away, but he talks his way into the room and then starts in about how, like, that dinner was awful. You were so far away from me.
She was on the other end of the table.
It was killing me. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
Yeah. And he pleads with her, like, don't go with Kolos. And she's like, Larry, look, we've been over this time and time again. He's like, I've asked you in restaurants, at work, on one knee, on both knees. Bro, take a hint.
Jesus Christ. Does a woman not have a choice? Apparently not.
Instead, he's all, well, I'm a man and you're a woman, and as if that gives him any right to anything. And he continues, and besides, what has Kolos got that I haven't got, huh? Kolos will never be able to give you anything like this. And then, without her consent, he grabs her head and kisses her hard. This is a public service announcement. If they say they're not interested, no amount of you persisting is going to lead to any kind of positive outcome. Walk away. Definitely don't force yourself on them. Learn about consent.
Sadly, women do cave because they feel pressure.
Yeah.
And then later down the road, the guy gets mad because Oh, why don't you love me? Well, I told you in the fucking first place.
And you led me on. Oh, no.
So
no.
it's a lose-lose situation for us ladies.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with a guy like that.
Yeah. Hey, you remember that moment earlier where we thought that cross dissolve with the Medusan's box might have meant that the Medusan was thinking about murder? We were wrong. Larry is thinking about murder, and Pulaski knows it.
She is telepathic, so she can read his mind.
And she's telepathic and she can read his mind, but then she says, who do you want to murder, me? That wasn't my first guess.
No.
At all. Like, he wants to murder the Medusan so he can have you. That
Maybe
obvious.
She's not a good person. She's not a good telepathic.
Yeah.
She can only sense certain feelings, but she can't tell who they're directed at.
So she switches into Dr. Pulaski LMHC mode and tells him he can't keep these thoughts to himself, and she wants to help him. I'm going to be your therapist now. And for his next classic dude move, the jilted man projects. I really didn't want you anyway. That happens all the time, right? You get rejected and the guy gets rejected.
And then they're like,
fine.
well, you're
a bitch. I didn't want you anyway.
You're shit anyway. Why do I? Well, a minute ago.
He's like, now I know what a human male has to do to get your attention. Be your patient.
The great psychologist, he says. Why don't you try being a woman for a change?
Get in there and make me a sandwich.
Get in the kitchen, bitch. This is my favorite thing to say.
Very 1960s. In the hallway, Larry stops and turns around to go to the Medusan's quarters. Again, there's like lots of shaky handheld camera in this episode. And that with the music in this scene, like really set the mood for murder for me.
Yeah.
So Larry sort of like backs his way into the Medusan's quarters, turns around and the box opens up. And before he can get his heater drawn and fired, he's driven to madness.
The box opening up was maybe Kolo's it's a defense mechanism of some kind, because I'm assuming he is also telepathic. So he goes fucking haywire. Marvick runs away screaming, obviously going mad, and goes into the turbo lift. Dr. Jones comes out of her room and goes to the ambassador's box without her visor.
No visor. The Medusan's box is open, and she's completely unaffected.
Mm-hmm.
The next few beats jump back and forth between Kirk knocking on the door and calling for Pulaski, and Larry, who has made his way to engineering looking for Scotty. Pulaski comes out into the hallway and confirms the ambassador is fine, and Kirk's like, who did this? And Miranda says, it was Larry Marvick with the heater in the study. Did you ever play Clue? The game,
I've never played. I know what it is. I've never played it. I would love to though, because it's British. So, because you know how I am.
It was the ambassador with the candlestick in the library. And since he saw the Medusan, he is surely dangerously insane now. In engineering, Scotty doesn't know.
Scotty doesn't know that Fiona and me do it in my van every Sunday.
He never knows. And he's like, hey, Marvick, so you couldn't resist a wee wager.
Kirk makes a red alert announcement on the Alexa system, and he's like, Marvick made an attempt on Ambassador Kolos' life. He's dangerously insane. Be on the lookout or whatever.
Bolo.
In the middle of this announcement, Scotty, now realizing what's happening, turns to Marvick and tries to wrestle him off the controls. This kicks off a big old
Star Trek fight, which unfortunately Scotty loses.
Yeah, the red shirts just kind of bounce off of Larry one by one. He's just tossing them everywhere. There were a lot of really creepy shots in this scene. I mentioned it before. This is another example. Like, I don't know. I'm a doctor, not a filmmaker, but like
you're a podcaster, not a director.
Was this like a wide angle lens kind of POV thing, like during this fight? And they do it again later too. But I felt like it really added to the kind of creepy vibe of this episode in general. Larry wins in the end. Scotty had probably, again, he'd already been drinking, so
didn't take much.
He might have won if he wasn't trashed.
No, Scotty can hold his liquor like nobody's business.
Larry goes back to the controls and sends the Enterprise flailing off course.
on the bridge, Kirk wants to know what the fuck is going on. And Hulu's like, we're going at warp factor 8.5 and getting faster. And Kirk tries to have Uhura contact engineering, which she does, but they don't answer. And so Spock goes to the engineering station. They're now at warp factor 9 and getting faster. They can't disengage power. But Spock says, hey, Chekhov, let's get down underneath this panel.
Yeah, they pull the thing off and start fiddling with wires and shit.
So that they can try to disengage power from there.
So Uhura has engineering on the comm, and Marvick comes across the speaker, and he's raving mad now. He starts singing, I'll take you home again, Kathleen.
No! I love that. Oh, my God. Oh, that's awesome.
He's just ranting nonsense. We mustn't sleep. They'll come in your dreams. They'll suffocate in your dreams. Just gibberish.
Marvick is like hell-bent on going somewhere, trying to escape. And Kirk is telling security to get to engineering right now, and Miranda's going to go with him. She insists after Kirk says no, but she's like, I'm telepathic, fuckface.
I'm the only one that can reach him.
Right.
Yeah. In engineering, Larry's still all, I'll take you home again, Kathleen, talking about we'll be safe at the boundaries of the universe, as Kirk and the red shirts jump him and pull him away from the controls. But it's too late. The Enterprise has already hit the galactic boundary. I was really tempted to make a Galaxy's Edge joke here, but Disney doesn't pay me enough.
Oh. And I mean, is it like, are you in a bubble when you're in a galaxy? Can't you just like go?
This is like the third time we've been here.
Just go. There's no gate. There's no fence.
Right.
Just go. It's space.
So we're at the galactic boundary again, and Gary Mitchell walks into engineering with those LSD eyes.
The aluminum foil eyes.
This being the third and final Star Trek, the original series episode, where they leave our galaxy. They've got Larry pinned against the ladder now, and he seems like he's kind of out of it. Kirk asks Scotty where they are, but Scotty doesn't know.
Scotty doesn't know that Fiona and me do it in my van every Sunday.
Oh, my God.
Kirk sends McCoy over with a hypo, but Larry starts raving, like, get the thing away from me. We can't sleep because they come in your dreams or whatever.
They come in your dreams. What? What kind of dreams are you having?
We're not going to take this part to the live show, but
we could. It depends on if there are kids. If there are little kids in the room, we can. He's like, but yeah, he says like, now they come in your dreams. That's the worst.
Oh God.
They suffocate. They do the asphyxiation in your dreams. They suffocate in your dreams.
You choke it in your dreams.
Yeah. God.
So Kirk calls McCoy off and offers to hide Marvick, but he freaks out again. He wants to stay in engineering with the controls, get them to the next galaxy over or something. It's never made clear why he's trying to leave this galaxy or where he's going.
It sounds like just that he wants to get away from, I'm assuming, Ambassador Cola's like mind or something. He's running.
Maybe he's trying to get to Marcos 12, but he just doesn't have any kids to manipulate. So they're dragging him out of engineering, and he suddenly calms down as Pulaski telepathically enters his mind. And he's very relieved that she's there, being in love with her and all.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets weird. Pulaski says she can see what he sees and begs him not to think of it. Murder again, I assume, because Larry starts screaming, calling her a liar, deceiver. I wasn't sure what to make of this. He says, "You're not alone. You brought it with you. It's here." What is it?
I think it's Ambassador Cola. So that's the only thing I can think of.
Right.
So maybe he senses him in her mind?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
He even gets his hands at her neck, yelling at the others not to love her. Don't love her because she'll kill you if you love her.
And then he says, I love you. This makes absolutely no sense.
No, this is so weird.
But yeah, he finally shuts the fuck up and dies. Jeez.
Oh my God! They've killed
Mr. Marvick.
you, bastards!
And then McCoy makes it official and says he's dead.
He's dead, Jim. Back from the commercial, Kirk's log explains that the Enterprise is now lost in space.
There is no question.
They have no way to determine their location, having been flung far outside our galaxy. And the camera cuts over to the Traveler, wiping sweat from his brow. On the bridge, Spock is Spock-splaining to Kirk. We are evidently far outside our own galaxy, judging by the lack of traceable reference points. When we exceeded warp speed factor 9.5, we apparently entered a space-time continuum. And
really?
Q appears on the bridge next to Kirk as a Borg cube warps in on the view screen.
They don't seem alarmed by the whole space-time continuum thing, so they keep on trucking. McCoy has an autopsy report, and he's like, yep, heart just stopped. Case unknown. He just died. McCoy's like, he couldn't live with what he saw.
This is McCoy being a shit doctor again.
Yeah, again.
He can't determine a physical cause of physical death.
He makes some shit up.
Yes.
So he couldn't live with what he saw, and Kirk says, or what he felt.
They can't determine where they are, and they can't plot a course back. And even if they could, they can't cross the galactic barrier at sublight speed. Got to be at warp for that, apparently.
Because it's what? Membrane?
Yeah, I guess. It's an energy field of some kind. I don't know. And if they try to go to warp, they'd experience this extreme sensory distortion again that they experienced when they got thrown here. Kirk's got an idea, though. Remember at the beginning of this episode of Star Trek, the original series, where they talked about getting Medusans to become Starfleet navigators? You think that might work here? This is, of course, very fascinating to Spock, who mentions...
Spock is like, ooh, I get to get into his brain. I get to get into his head, or he can get into mine, you know.
Yeah, he punches up the idea and suggests, why don't I mind meld with Kolos? So then, like, together, we would be able to operate the Enterprise and avoid the sensory distortions. So, you know, the Medusan can't operate the Enterprise, but it can avoid the sensory distortions, and Spock can do the Enterprise bit, but not the other. So together, maybe they can do it, but there's a couple of concerns. One, there's a possibility that once they join minds, they won't be able to separate. Then we'd have a real Tuvix problem on our hands. Two, Pulaski is going to lose her fucking mind when she finds out about this plan.
Yep, she's jealous.
Mm-hmm. So Kirk's like, I could just lock her in her room. I just lock her up.
I could just, yeah.
Yeah. But Spock reminds us her telepathic powers are so strong that that wouldn't matter. He's like, Jim, she's super jealous. What she needs is a distraction so engaging that no thought of what I am doing shall intrude. And Kirk's like, a distraction, you say?
I know just the thing.
He's like unbuttoning buttons on his dress shirt. Like,
yeah, he's like, I haven't shown my chest in a while.
Smash cut to Kirk's bedroom.
And literally,
oh
he takes her to a place that's filled with flowers. I guess this is Sulu's old botany lab.
Yeah, the botany lab was so successful. Now they have an arboretum.
Yes.
And finally, alone, Pulaski's like, Sargon, is it really you? She's fascinated by all of these earth flowers, having never been to Earth herself, and she smells one, but it doesn't have a scent. So Kirk takes her over to some roses. And of course, when she bends down to take a sniff, she pricks her finger on a thorn. Pulaski explains that she didn't want Marvik's love. She couldn't return it. And Kirk does that thing people do when they're like, oh, you say that now, but someday you'll change your mind and want to have kids.
Ugh.
Don't do that to people.
No.
He's like, come on. One of these days you'll want human love and companionship.
She's like, shall I tell you what human companionship means to me? And she's right. She says, a struggle, a defense against emotion of others. And at times the emotion bursts in on me. Hatred, desire, envy, pity. Pity's the worst of all. I agree with the Vulcans. Violent emotion is a kind of insanity. Speaking of, here comes Spock with a visor in his hand, and he's making his way along the corridor because he's heading towards Ambassador Kola.
Pulaski even admits to being willing to spend the rest of her life with the Medusans just to avoid human emotion. Everybody buckle up for some really bad 1960s takes on human relationships. Kirk says, a meeting of the minds is all fine and well, but what about love? You're a hot young thing. Sooner or later, no matter how beautiful their minds are, you're going to want someone who looks like you, someone who, isn't ugly.
That's the most fucked up thing to say.
Yeah.
As if to say, if you're not pretty, you don't deserve love.
Yes.
Or you should stay in your lane and choose somebody that looks like you, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stay with your own race, stay with your own kind, stay with your own this, stay with your own that. I didn't like that.
Yep. Pulaski pushes back though. She's like, ugly? What is ugly? And who do you think you are anyway? Who is to say whether Kolos is too ugly to bear or too beautiful to bear? There's the beauty is in the eye of the beholder theme. Spock is approaching the ambassador's door now, while Kirk is apologizing for being a dick just now. He's making his move. Here we are among the roses. Very romantic, don't you think? It's too bad there's not some moonlight. You'd look real hot in the moonlight. And he moves in for the kiss, but he gets rejected.
Because Miranda senses something's going on in Kolos's room. And she's like, no, don't. You mustn't let him. Kirk is trying to hold her back. And she's like, get your fucking hands off me. You have no idea what Spock is doing is so dangerous. We've got to stop him. So his plan of distraction did not work.
He lets her go and they head out into the hallway. Spock steps through the door as they approach, and Spock and Pulaski have a go at, why does this have to be Spock and not Pulaski? Well, Spock says that while her telepathic abilities might be superior to his, the whole point of this thing is to pilot the Enterprise, and you don't know how to do that.
And that was really fucked up because they just assumed that she couldn't do that.
She's like, well, teach me then. I'm a quick study. And McCoy's like, look, Pulaski, I realize that you can do almost anything a sighted person can do, but you can't pilot a starship. And
Dropped a fucking bomb because I was like, well, I rewound that. I'm like, what did he say? And how did he know?
He had her medical profile.
So he was like fucking stalking her too?
So like a cartoon, everyone's heads whip around to McCoy. And Spock takes his hand. Hey, sighted people, never, ever, 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 ever do this. Spock takes his hand and puts it in front of Pulaski's eyes. Like, can you see me? Can you see me?
That's really fucked up.
Don't ever fucking do that. Yeah. Come on, Spock. And then he touches her dress and announces that it's a highly sophisticated sensor web.
Again, touching without consent. Yep. They just treating her like a fucking thing. So annoying. It's kind of like when people want to touch my hair. I'm like, no, don't do it.
And it seems to have gotten worse now that they know she's blind.
Yeah, it's like, oh, hey, it's a free-for-all. We can do whatever we want now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kirk's like, oh, I get it now. You can't see Kolos, so he can't hurt you. Oh, this makes so much more sense now. Spock's like, why do you hide your blindness? And Kirk remembers something she said earlier. Pity. It's the worst of all. She doesn't want people pitying her. And besides, her sensor makes her far better than human. She's like, do you think you can gather more information with your eyes than I can with my sensors? She's like, I could kick your ass at tennis. As a matter of fact, I'm standing exactly 1 meter, 4 centimeters from the door. Can you judge distance like that with your eyes?
Hell yeah.
This is the Geordie's visor provides better, provides a ton of more information than a sighted person could ever see.
She even says, I can even tell how fast your heart's beating. But Kirk is still just like, no, that won't be necessary. Spock's doing it. And that's the end of it.
Pulaski's still fighting this. So Kirk's like, fine. If we can't persuade you, go talk to Kolos. Kolos can persuade you. So she goes into Kolos's quarters. Outside, Kirk's like, what the fuck, Bones? Why didn't you tell me? And McCoy's like, HIPAA laws, Jim. That could really put an end to my career.
Yeah.
And he can't talk about people's medical conditions.
And he just did, though. I mean, but yeah.
Yeah.
But he says that he respects her privacy, but he just fucking called her out in front of everyone. So, yeah, no.
KSM hear a scream through the door, but Pulaski appears back through the doorway a moment later, calm, but accepting of the situation. So Spock puts on his visor and prepares for this mind meld, while Kirk voices a captain's log. Kolos has been brought to the bridge and placed behind a section of office cubicle wall for everyone's protection, I guess. And Spock kneels at Kolos's box and it opens. We get some reaction shots around the bridge, and then Spock stands up, comes out from behind the cubicle wall, takes off his visor, and smiles.
Yeah, we know that ain't Spock. But he's like, I know all of you, James Kirk, captain and my friend, and McCoy. It didn't say friend, but he's like a long acquaintance, and Uhura, whose name means freedom. She walks in beauty like the night. And yeah, it was pretty cool.
This was some good comedic moment.
Yeah.
Or comedic relief. McCoy's like, hang on, that's not Spock. And Spock turns to McCoy and says, are you surprised to find that I've read Byron, Doctor? And McCoy goes, now that's Spock. That was fun.
And it turns out that they're a mixture of both Spock and Kolos.
And don't forget about the hard to D2Vix them part of this dilemma.
Yeah. So he finally sees Miranda and he saves her for last. He's like, oh, yeah, there you are.
He's like, Thalassa, it's me, and Spock. And Sargon's here too?
It's a party. Now it's a party. Kolos is marveling kind of at this world through Spock's eyes. He's like, oh, brave new world that has such creatures in it. And Miranda's like, it's new to you. And then Spock, or what are we calling him?
Kolos Spock.
Spolos.
Kolo.
Cock. I don't know.
I wrote Kolos Spock.
Kolos Spock. Or Spolos.
The Spolos, yeah.
Spolos or cock. I mean, take your pick.
Okay, Spolos it is.
Spolos. As Spolos, he says, my world is next for us. Captain Kirk, I speak for all of us you call Medusans. I'm sorry for the trouble that I brought to your ship. And obviously, it's not Kolos' fault. It's really Marvick's fault. They just need to get back to where they were. So he asks Sulu to release the helm to Mr. Spock so that they can get this ship back on track.
Spolos easily maneuvers the Enterprise back through the galactic barrier, and they return to almost the exact point that they left from. Kirk thanks the ambassador for his help, and Spolos gets up from the con with a brilliant monologue. He says, how compact your bodies are, and what a variety of senses you have. This thing you call language, though, most remarkable. You depend on it for so very much. But is any one of you really its master? And Uhura's like, I'm sitting right here. But most of all, the aloneness. You are so alone. You live out your lives in this shell of flesh, self-contained, separate. How lonely you are. How terribly lonely.
But Kirk is like, you got to dissolve the link, Ambassador. And Spolos says, so soon? Because he sounds like he don't want to go. He doesn't want to get... Once again, Spock's body is a pretty comfortable place to be. But Kirk is like, there must be no delay. And Spolos says, you're wise, Captain. So he goes behind that little divider thing without his visor and didn't think anything of it, I guess. And Sulu notices that his visor is still on the console. And he's like, fuck, Captain. Kirk is like, Spock, cover your eyes. Don't look. Too late. We can't see anything that's happening behind this particle board thing, but we see the light and Spock screams. McCoy wants to go to him, but he's like, don't move because, you'll go mad too.
Mm-hmm.
But finally, Spock backs away and he's got like anguish all over his face.
This scene was like the height of all drama. He's got this terrible look of pain on his face, mixed maybe with a little bit of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And Kirk tries the old, hey, buddy, you okay? Listen, it's all right now. You're with us.
You're fine.
Yeah, you're back with family now, Spock. It's okay. But Spock just launches into a proper Star Trek fight.
Nice.
Star Trek fight!
I want to mention again here that unusual camera decisions that this director made. This, again, was like wide-angle Spock POV Star Trek fight.
Mm-hmm.
And we literally never get this sort of like camera work in Star Trek. So I think like being so different, it really went a long way to making it feel strange.
Yeah.
Spock's taking down officer after officer until finally Kirk gets a hold of a heater and zaps him.
And then they get him to sick bay, and Dr. Jones is sort of trying to do some kind of mind fingering with him. She doesn't have her special dress on, so she's completely blind because that dress was helping her with her sight.
You know what it's like to be out in the waiting room while like a friend or a family or somebody's getting, surgery or something, and that's what McCoy and Kirk are doing. They're just kind of pacing back and forth in the waiting room.
McCoy's the doctor. Like, he should be in there doing something, but he knows nothing about Vulcan physiology, as he said many times.
Where's Mbenga?
I know.
Apparently, Pulaski is going to use her training on Vulcan to try to reach into Spock's mind and pull him back out. Is it me, or have we done a lot of searching for Spock in this season?
They like
already?
To pick on him. I mean, his brain
we
was
lost
gone.
His brain, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, Kirk's had enough waiting, and although McCoy tries to stop him, he goes into sickbay.
Kirk is worried because he's like, well, she tried to help Marvick, and he's dead, so he doesn't trust her at all. Because also, he gets the sense that Spock's her rival.
So Kirk goes into sickbay and sort of announces himself because she doesn't know who it is. She thinks it's McCoy, and he's like, nope, it's Kirk. And then he lights her up hardcore. She's basically like giving up on saving Spock. And Kirk speaks the reason out loud. Little green monster, little green alien we like to call jealousy. He says that Spock, speaking of little green monsters, Spock as a half Vulcan is more human than she'll ever be.
Insult her. Yeah, that's the way to get someone to do what you want, is insult them.
He's like, you want him to die. That's why you're not even trying. You're trying to kill him. You want him to die. Maybe you even did some telepathy thing on the bridge so that he'd forget that visor. Kirk says, yes, you know your rival, don't you? You couldn't keep him from making a mind link with Kolos, something you couldn't do yourself. With my words, I'll make you hear such ugliness as Spock saw when he looked at Kolos with his naked eyes. The ugliness is within you.
I don't agree with him. I mean, do you think that, I don't know.
Do I think that what? I might agree with some of it.
I don't think she ever meant for anything to happen to him. And that she, I don't know why she was hesitating to mind meld with him, but I thought she was already mind melding with him. I'm so confused.
Well, she was pretending to mind meld with him
with
and
Spock?
Not getting anywhere. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so then Kirk goes in and interrupts her, and he's like,
okay,
hey, listen, you're fucking jealous, and that's why you're not
trying hard enough.
Yeah, figure this shit out.
You're not trying hard enough. I don't think so. But maybe I'm wrong. I just wanted her to be completely like not the villain.
Kirk ratchets this up a couple more notches before Pulaski finally yells at him to leave. And on his way out, he tells her, Kolos knows what's in your heart. You can lie to yourself, but you can't lie to Kolos.
Jesus. Outside, McCoy's like, what'd you say? And he's like, maybe I went too far.
And then here's the thing, like, he's not sure if calling her on her shit helped or hurt the situation. And he's like, maybe if it's the latter and Spock dies, do I kind of have to take some guilt for causing that? But inside sickbay, Kirk's pep talk seems to have worked as Pulaski's decided she's actually going to try now. And she fingers Spock's face, and we start seeing, again, very disconcerting fast cuts between Pulaski, Spock, and images of insanity, scenes and clips and stuff from earlier in the episode. Very effective. Very, very effective at giving the insane feeling.
Spock staggers out into the corridor, and I guess he's fine. I mean, they just kind of cut right to that, and McCoy says, you look like you paid a visit to the devil himself, and steps out into the corridor, and Miranda's gone.
The hallway was like dark and empty. What happened to all those people who were
in the light,
who had stopped listening for the announcement?
Yeah.
Like, was that Starfleet rush hour or something? Where they were all on their way to their ships, and now it's just,
I don't know.
Now the roads aren't as busy.
It was after lunch. I don't know.
The Enterprise is now parked to what I guess is a Medusan ship, and Spock, who is again wearing his Idic pendant, is detaching the anti-grav unit from the Medusan's box. Pulaski has her sensor net back on, and she's become one with Kolos. What she wanted most, and she makes the rounds saying goodbye. McCoy's sad to see her go. And he's like, It's not often we get purty girls here on the Enterprise. And the camera cuts over to Chapel and Uhura, and they're like, are you fucking kidding me right now?
I know. I forgot about Janice. I haven't seen she's
Janice Rand, yeah. We haven't had her either.
We're probably not going to see her again, yeah.
Kirk didn't think she'd talk to him after he ripped into her like that, but she appreciates his honesty in the end. Says his words enabled her to see her own ugliness. He gives her a rose, and she's like, I suppose it has thorns. And Kirk's like, I never met a rose that didn't. We didn't talk about this at the time, but the way that came back, I thought, was a great way to say, like, beauty is fine and all, but nothing is perfectly beautiful, right? Like, we all got our thorns.
Yeah.
Pulaski goes to Spock. This could have been the most awkward of all, right? Like, we're Spock, not Vulcan, because she was the worst to him.
Yeah, because
damn near let him die
for jealousy, and I guess they didn't do a good job of making it known that she was jealous. Because I still didn't get the sense. I think they could have gone for it a little more. Because I still didn't get enough of the sense that she was jealous.
Yeah, it was just the whole like she wanted to do the mind meld and he got to do it and she didn't. Like, yeah. Pulaski says she now understands the joy that Spock felt when joining with Kolos. And Spock's happy for her achievement. As to the Idic he wears, she gets that now too. She's like, the glory of creation is in its infinite diversity. When did Star Trek get so woke?
Whoa.
Live long and prosper, peace and long life. For some reason, Spock puts on that stupid visor again to transport them away. But Kirk just stands there watching.
So inconsistent. I don't know. Make up your mind, guys.
They're like, we're getting our 35 cents out of this stupid prop.
I know, right?
There's a beat at the end of this episode that I wasn't expecting either. The camera lingers on Spock a bit longer than normal. And then lingers on the empty transporter pad a bit longer than normal. That really said, like, there was something in that silence.
I think maybe there was some envy going on his side,
ways.
too. And I don't think there was any, like, attraction to her at all. I think it was just more envy of her being able to link with that kind of mind. That's what Spock is interested in. He's not interested in pussy. Except every
Unless it's a Romulan that he's trying to, you know.
Right. Unless
distract.
It's a rom-com. This is Romulan commander. But yeah, I think there was some envy on his side, too.
Well, off we go to our next adventure.
Boy, I'm sure glad that's over with.
I'm happy the affair is over.
Me too.
A most annoying, emotional episode.
Yeah, but you know, I learned something today.
When dreams become more important than reality, you give up travel, building, creating.
One jealous god, if all this makes a god.
By sparing your helpless enemy, who surely would have destroyed you, you demonstrated the advanced trait of mercy.
Frankly, I was rather dismayed by your use of the term half-breed. You must admit, it is an unsophisticated expression.
Okay, I did not remember much about this episode going in.
Me either.
Like, I remembered the scene on the bridge where Spock sees the Medusan and goes nuts, but I don't remember anything else. Like, that was just that one scene in a bottle that I remembered. But I think this might be one of my all-time favorite episodes of Star Trek. To me, my top 3 of Star Trek, the original series. It's a great episode.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
What is beauty anyway?
I was going to say.
Right?
There's a ratio. I think it's somewhat subjective. Like, what I think is pretty might not be what someone else likes.
Of course, right.
But there's like the beauty ratio. It's called the golden ratio.
Yes.
Where it's something about proportions. But when you're dealing with like not something without a face, because this golden ratio is all about like the
symmetry
and eyes being a certain
distance apart
from the nose and the mouth. And,
yes, all of that stuff.
But there's, I guess, a proven fact or whatever that if you have this ratio, then humans consider you beautiful. But when you're dealing with something that is shapeless, we don't.
Right.
What is it? What's beauty?
Yeah, I think when we hear the term beauty, we do instinctively jump to physical attractiveness. Yeah. But there's so much more to it than that.
Yeah.
And Allie, I have to confess something to you.
Uh-oh.
My new guilty pleasure is that show on Max called Naked Attraction. I told you about this.
I love that show.
Oh my God.
I've seen every, because it is a British show.
Yeah.
And it's been running for years. But I love that. It's basically dating in reverse.
So they bring on a contestant to choose a date, and they start with 6 naked people in these pods.
I love it.
And then they reveal only up to the waist first,
Mhm.
and you have to eliminate somebody based on just junk
their bits.
down.
Their
bits to toes. And then they reveal up to the neck, and you have to eliminate someone else. And then you get to see the 4 remaining faces and eliminate someone else. And then you get to hear them speak, and you have to eliminate one of those 3. And then you're down to 2, and then you get naked to make the decision on which one of these 2 people you're going to take on a date.
I love it. I
do
think
too.
it's brilliant.
This is fascinating to me because, look, I grew up representing male, right? And I was attracted to people that stereotypically you might think a young man is attracted to, right? And I'm sure this is true for so many of us. But as I get older, what I think of as beautiful changes drastically.
Yeah.
Like, it's evolved so much away from the superficial stuff. And what I really find interesting about myself watching this dumb show is how I feel or react to seeing these people too, right? Like you put yourself in the position of the contestant.
Yeah.
And the camera goes from yellow to red to orange to blue to whatever. And you're like, nope, too small, too big.
I know.
Too much foreskin.
But someone, and it doesn't mean that you don't find them beautiful. It's just not what you want.
Right.
But you're not saying, oh, kill that person.
No, of course
it's
not.
ugly. But it's not even saying that it's ugly. It's just that we all have a preference of what we want.
Right.
In our lives. And
like sometimes I'll see a guy, they'll get to the faces and I'll see a guy and go, oh, that's a player. That's a lad. That's a lad right there. You don't want that one.
Yeah. And honestly, as I get older too, I think about this because I'm single, I'm 50 and I look at dating sites and stuff and I don't want, it's almost like I don't want someone that's too good looking. Because of that stereotype that might come with it.
Right.
It's because,
there's an ego and
they think you can't go through life. If you are absolutely beautiful and everybody says you are, then you can't go through life not using that. I mean, I feel like most guys who know they're gorgeous,
there's an attitude that comes with it. Right.
There's an attitude that comes with it. There's a player. There's this ego, kind of like Kirk had. He just assumed that he was good looking and that she was supposed to fawn over him. And most good looking men have that same knowledge, I mean, if you're good looking, and if you're not like me, like I don't fit the beauty standard. So I know
me neither
that I'm not beautiful. So, and that's fine because that's my lot in life. And I don't like it, but I can't change how it is. I can't change how it is, but I stay away from guys like that. Cause it's like, yeah, he's good looking, but what's he like?
Right. So that's the thing. So this episode, right. All of those like classic sayings about beauty, it's only skin deep, beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
It's true.
This episode really zeroes in on the idea that the ugly is truly like the jealousy and hatred and ugliness inside. Like pretty people, who you are is more important than what you look like.
Right.
Like, sorry to tell you that, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Sadly, though, we know where we live in Western culture, and
we have put a lot of value on pretty.
I hate to say it.
Yeah.
It does get you a lot farther than, like, eventually if you're not attractive and you're really smart and you're great inside, eventually you might get there, but it's going to be a harder road than if you're just presenting on the outside. And that kind of helps people skate through sometimes.
Humility is a core value to humanism, right? We're about being more collective and less individualistic. And Pulaski, finally figured out in the end, she and Spock both felt some kind of connection through both having joined with Kolos. And so they're happy for each other in the end. There's some jealousy both ways.
Right.
But in the end, they were both like, Spock's like, well, I'm glad you got to experience. And she's like, I get it now. I know what you felt. Like they have that shared experience instead of being jealous. And speaking of collective versus individual, Spolos. Spolos' big speech where he says, but most of all, the aloneness. You are so alone. You live out your lives in this shell of a flesh, self-contained, separate, how lonely you are. This really shines a light on the fact that we did evolve as a social species. And so we need this contact with each other, like at these nerd cons where we can come together in community over a shared thing that we all love.
It's amazing feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's why church is such a thing, right? Like religion inherently comes with community built into it. And so for those of us who are part of this very quickly growing majority of people for whom religion is not a thing here in America, we have to figure out a way to stay in community. We have to keep that component of it, right? It's a basic humanist thing. Like we have to have human connection.
Yeah.
That's who we are.
I do hear from a lot of people who have left that religious lifestyle, but then they still yearn for that feeling of as we call it, fellowship, fellowship and brotherhood and community, and that and so they try to start their own groups just for that reason. Disabilities, of course, the fact that she was blind and she had this special thing that she wore to compensate, and so that she could hide, and she shouldn't have felt like she had to hide it,
right?
Because of the pity. And then
I wish we had spent more time on that.
Yeah. It was a twist that I was not expecting. I was like, "Whoa, she's blind."
Yeah,
that's the bomb.
Yep.
But and I feel like it's diminishing her being disabled. She's somehow diminished,
right?
Like her dress, again, it's like some kind of visual aid, and when she takes it off, even though it's beautiful, it adds to her beauty. When she takes it off, it makes her vulnerable in a different way. Almost naked.
Yeah.
But then at the dinner table, they were constantly like harping on how she looked.
Yes.
And also diminishing her as a woman. You're beautiful. You should be doing this.
Yeah.
And there was that male entitlement.
Yep.
That like, I can tell you what you should be doing. They spent so much time discussing her beauty that they just disregarded her abilities, like her intellect, all her other things that she could be doing.
Her as a person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then like, do you only deserve love if you're pretty? You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, I think it was Spock that said something about, do we always assume that beauty means that you're good?
Right. That old Greek idea of, pretty equals good, good equals pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just lots of stuff.
Another thing we humanists do that is core to the human experience, many of us find value in marking life's moments and milestones. Again, religion doesn't hold a copyright on, ceremonies like weddings and baby namings and memorial services. This is a human thing, not a religious one. And so we value our memorial services here on Humanist Trek, which means it's time to honor the dead.
Nice. So we only had Larry Marvick.
He's dead, Jim.
We are assembled here today to pay final respects to our honored dead.
Marvick was an incel. Dr. Jones was in his sights. He demanded she love him. He felt he had the right. She rejected his advances. So like an incel, he plotted to kill Ambassador Koloth, with whom he thought she was besotted. He opened the box with malicious intent, but forgot the visor because he was so hell-bent. He went mad at the sight and took the ship to the outer rim, but he got what he deserved. He died screaming, "Fuck him."
Don't rest in peace. Fuck that guy. Don't be an incel.
Yeah.
Let's get right to business.
Fine, I'm authorized to pay an equitable price. Federation has invested a great deal of money in our training. They're about due for a small return.
Listen, we pay our percentages. We're entitled to a little service for our money, huh?
Is this the way your citizens do business? Their right of petition?
They pay their percentages and the boss takes care of them.
Is there anything else?
All right, there are a lot of great ways to help support the show here. One of the free ways to do that is to leave a rating and review wherever you happen to listen to Humanist Trek. Of course, one of the best ways to support us is to give us some of your Federation credits by becoming a patron of the show. We want to thank all of our patrons, and we especially want to thank our founding admirals. A special thanks to Russell, Allie, Peter, Sarah, and Sherry.
Thank you, patrons.
Thanks, everybody. Patrons get early access to every episode, special merch, bonus content, and more. So there's lots of great reasons to join our Federation. Head on over to patreon.com/humanisttrek and pledge as little as $3 a month. It makes a big difference, and it really means a lot to us.
I assume you're loitering around here to learn what efficiency rating I plan to give your cadets.
Trainees, to the briefing room. Is that all you gotta say? What about my performance?
Aren't you dead?
I don't believe this was a fair test of my command abilities. There was no way to win.
There's no correct resolution. It's a test of character.
Now, what is that supposed to mean?
I am understandably curious.
May I ask you a question?
Who's been holding up the damn elevator?
All right, let's bring Becca back for the exciting answer to this week's Starfleet Academy Cadet Challenge. Last time on Humanist Trek, you asked us...
In this episode, we see shots of the Enterprise in the galactic void. These are recycled shots from a previous episode. Name the episode. Bonus points for season and episode number.
Our guesses, Allie said the immunity syndrome, which is the one where they go inside the space amoeba, and thought that that was season 2, episode 23. And I said Where No Man Has Gone Before, which I thought was season 1, episode 2. And I know now that the episode number is wrong, but I'm pretty confident in my answer.
Sarah's right.
Woo-hoo!
Correct.
I'll take the 1 point though. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you get 2 points because you knew it was season 1.
Oh, so it was a possible 3 points?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't understand that.
Yeah, that's what I have on my chart here. Is
I'll take 2 points then. Hell yeah.
I don't even get any.
Incorrect.
Sorry, Allie.
That's okay. That's fine. I'm just a loser.
I'm a loser, baby.
Why don't kill me?
Now we got to add that to our Spotify playlist. Next week, we'll be reviewing Star Trek The Original Series, Season 3, Episode 6, Spectre of the Gun, which I expect to be a Western episode. Do you remember this at all?
I expect it to be a 007 episode. It sounds like something James Bondy.
Okay.
Like Spectre of the Gun. Nope, don't remember.
All right, what's our question for Spectre of the Gun?
This episode was written by Lee Cronin, the pseudonym of Gene L. Kuhn.
Oh, okay.
Some
I didn't know that.
Some say he used the pseudonym because he was unhappy with the end results. What was the real reason for the fictitious name?
What? Why did he use a fake name on this episode? Because they were in a writer's strike and he wasn't supposed to be participating or whatever. So he made up a fake name to cross the fucking scab.
Oh wow!
Damn.
That escalated.
Wow. That escalated very quickly.
And my apologies to Gene L. Kuhn and if I'm incorrect. Yes. Okay, I'm going with
Sarah's answer. Fucking scab.
How many times have I given writer's strike as an answer, though?
That's why I was laughing initially. Oh no, here we go again. We were wrong. We were wrong before. Maybe it was because of the subject matter. Oh gosh. Maybe it was something based on some truth or something, and he didn't want anyone to know. Maybe the storyline was close to the truth of someone in his life or that he knew, and if they saw that he wrote it, they would say, "Hey, that's about me."
That's a good answer. Okay.
That's what I'm going. That's what I'm going for instead of fucking scab. So.
All right. Okay. Well, we've locked in our answers. If you want to play along, no cheating, no Googling. Head over to your nearest social media app and post this episode with your answer and the hashtag Starfleet Challenge, and we will pick out our favorite. Next time on Humanist Trek, Star Trek The Original Series, Season 3, Episode 6, Spectre of the Gun.
Live long and prosper.
Kapla.
Humanist Trek is available wherever you replicate your podcast. Follow us on all the social medias at Humanist Trek. Become a patron at patreon.com/humanisttrek. Open hailing frequencies to podcast@humanisttrek.com and visit our website, humanisttrek.com. Humanist Trek is a production of Sarah Austin Media.